This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and our fine family of broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our main website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is Louis MAJORS. He is an author, artist, philosopher. He is born in New York City, raised in Atlanta, Georgia. He is a graduate of the University of Georgia. His initial career was in advertising sales in the professional sports realm, working for pro sports publications in New York City, and then Ted Turner and the Atlanta Braves. While in the employ of the Braves and wanting to program his subconscious with his business goals, the unexpected occurred when, during a Silva mind control class, he had two out-of-body experiences. This initiated a 35-year journey of searching, experimenting, and uncovering the deepest truths on existence and who we really are, where we really are, what's really happening here, and our true potential, complete with a new paradigm for living. Joining me now is Louis MAJORS. And Louis, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you having me on tonight.
Got to tell you something, my friend. You've had quite a career. You've done the artist, author, philosopher, worked for Ted Turner, worked for the Braves. You've been in advertising. You took the Silva mind control class and had an out-of-body experience, two out-of-body experiences, I should say.
Well, actually, it was... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say it was one experience, but it lasted 2 weeks.
One experience? Wow.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, go ahead. You're going to ask us something?
No.
Okay. At the time, I grew up a normal, yuppie kid, and I wanted to go to school and be a businessman and be successful, and I'd decided I wanted to be a millionaire before I was 30. And I'd been reading Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am, yeah.
And so when I was working for Ted, Silva used to do this class. They go through hotels and cities and teach people to program their subconscious. Most of the time it was to quit biting your nails or some habit. But I decided to go in there and program my subconscious with my business goals because I figured I could achieve them easier. And while I was in that class, the best thing I can think happened. I don't know, I was so freaked out by some of it that I literally jumped out of my body. I don't know if you're familiar with the Eastern ideas about chakras, but above our head is a crown chakra, an energy chakra, which you leave your body through. And normally your awareness is behind your eyes. Well, mine jumped up there above my body, and it was like that for 2 solid weeks. And it freaked me out so bad. I didn't have any kind of reference for that kind of an experience. I was just kind of an everyday, normal, person.
Sure.
So that started the journey, was like trying to understand that side of life.
I have never heard of such a lengthy out-of-body experience in the 22 years I've been doing this show.
I know it was very strange. It caused my dad to freak out. I mean, like, it was very strange. But it wasn't like I was going other places. I was just above my body, but I wasn't in it. So it was just a really strange thing. I thought I was dying. That's, I guess would be an obvious thought.
Yeah, tell me, how did you function? It must have been very hard for you, because here you're looking down at your physical body from another dimension.
Well, it's not exactly like your body kind of functions on its own a lot, and it's just like your awareness is normally, or at least mine, kind of seems like it's situated behind your mind. At the frontal lobe.
Yeah.
I mean, behind your eyes, not your mind. Instead, I was up there, so it's like I was still in touch with my body, but it was like I was above it, just working things from there. It's really strange.
You and I have to take our first break, Lou. Please stand by. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break. Exonation, right. My guest this hour is Lou Majors. We're talking about his newly released ebook, Step 3, Our Multidimensional Transformation. And Lou and I will be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break here in the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And I'm here with you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Lou Majors is our special guest, and if you'd like to get a copy of Step 3, Our Multidimensional Transformation, it's available on Amazon.com. A 2-week out-of-body experience. I've got to hear more about this when we come back from our 2-minute break. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Exonation Lou Majors is our special guest. He's got a new ebook out that's available at Amazon.com entitled Step 3, Our Multidimensional Transformation. Lou, before we go on, I've got to hear more about this 2-week out-of-body experience.
Well, it took a while, obviously, to figure out what was going on. For the most part, it was just an ultra strange feeling at this point because my third eye was not open. I hadn't learned to leave my body and go to other perspectives, so it's pretty much just being above my body in a really strange situation. I thought I was going to die. I went to the clinic one time, and I was with Ernie Johnson, the old announcer for the Braves.
Oh, yeah.
And we were calling on the president of Cotton States Insurance, and he looked at me and said, "What's wrong? Something's wrong." I said, "I don't feel so well." I went to the clinic, and I thought the roof was going to open. And at that time, my beliefs were a lot different, and I just thought, something happened. Angels came down and got you or whatever, and and it was just crazy like that for 2 weeks. And my dad finally took me to a psychic minister and got him to help me come back into my body.
Wow. 2 weeks.
I know,
My
it's really
goodness.
weird.
Yeah. Listen, I'd like you to explain to us about your theory on existence that you call the eternal cycle. And how did you determine it was true?
Well, when I initiated my search, I went through the major religions, and I went through, I studied somewhat quantum physics. I'm not a physicist, but and looked at different aspects about existence. And one part of my journey was a direct experience of the other realms, and that came to me. I had a couple of spontaneous experiences where I kind of hooked into the collective self, and I kind of and it's hard to describe, but you kind of know everything's just one consciousness, and you automatically have kind of a link to the information where you seems like you know everything. It's real strange. But I followed that up. I had a period where I went through different psychedelics, like a lot of people, like a lot of indigenous tribes. Their entrance into adulthood is a psychedelic experience.
Yeah, but
So
it's usually brought on by a mind-altering drug or substance. For example, peyote or LSD. What did you use?
Everything, all of it, and that's like to get a direct experience that everything's one, right? And of course, and then you've got on the science end, you've got the law of the conservation of energy that says you can't create or destroy energy. And then we had Albert Einstein basically tell us that everything's energy in some form. It's compressed, and plus it's a big theory. And there's arguments whether it's been proved or not about the unified field. So basically, my first premise was that existence is a unified field of energy, and from that, I saw a paradox. And the paradox was, well, if existence is a field of energy which is always present, has no beginning, has no end, can't be created or destroyed, then how do we have beginnings and endings? How is there even a linear motion in reality? How is that possible if it doesn't have a beginning? And that's where I came up with the concept, well, it must be the behavior of this energy to cycle. And that was the start of it, cycle from expression and back into nothingness and expression. In other words, it's an eternal cycle.
Is it possible that what we are actually looking at is a hint that was given to us in the Bible where Christ said, "I am the Alpha, I am the Omega," and we think that everything is linear when it could actually be just a circle. The spot on the circle where you start is the spot on the circle where you end, and it's just a continuous circle.
Exactly. I mean, it could even be part of my theory is that there's a prime fractal, which some teachers have called the sound or the vibration ohm, where this energy goes in and out. On one side, it's potential, and then it becomes expression, then it goes back to potential. and it's a never-ending pulse, like an electronic pulse. So yeah, the Bible. Yeah, that's how one of the ways I figured out that we're gods, or that we're spiritual supreme beings, I call us, is that's what the Bible says. It says we go through that.
Well, sure. The Bible also says, and God said, let us create man in our image, our likeness. And if we were created in his image, his likeness, then we are like him, which means we are gods.
Exactly. I mean, Jesus himself said in John 10, he said, you're gods. He said, your own scriptures have said, if the word comes to you, then you're a God. In other words, once you get the realization of who you really are, then, you're a child, you're a God, a child of God.
Let me ask you a very simple question. Why are we here?
Well, there's to me, in my theory on the eternal cycle, which is at loopmajors.com, there's an instinctive part. This is what I believe. There's an instinctive part or nature to existence, our collective spirit, before intelligence is created or evolved or unfolded. And from one standpoint, it's just the nature of energy to express itself in vibration to infinite realms and then back. As many combinations as it can and back. On the consciousness realm, I believe that we go through this because we want to learn to know ourselves and love ourselves. So we do this over and over again. We go through, we learn who we are, we experience who we are in a reality, and then we love ourselves, we love everything else, and then we rest again. Kind of like the Vedas said, they personalize and say there's a supreme being that sleeps and wakes, but which I don't personalize it that way. But that's kind of the way I see the cycle on a consciousness end.
Okay, so
it's just like when you're a baby. A baby's a perfect example. When you start off as an infant, you don't know anything, and
right.
You have no ability. And then you learn to navigate, you learn to create, you develop intelligence, and you're programmed as to who you are, but still, you decide who you are, and you learn to love yourself,
So why is this so important to us? In today's society, with all the information that we need at our fingertips, I think we're suffering from information overload, but that's another show. Why do we need, or why are so many people now searching for answers that the questions have never been asked before?
I think it's just the natural evolution of things, because evolution it usually involves speeding up, something being more complex and more mobile. Like I need an extra pot so I can move faster or whatever. And like to me, the information age is just showing how we're speeding things up so we can get to the end of the human period, the hominid period, and get deeper. And in order to do that, we have to move faster than we have in the past. So information's moving faster. It's all coming together like a giant puzzle, and we're going to have like a collective. That's who we are.
So I would imagine then that you believe that the current information age is an actual indication of our imminent evolution form from human identity to what?
To our identity as gods or spirits or conscious beings. I use the word supreme beings a lot because it's more shocking. Just like I call humans, I call them primates more, just because we need to be shocked into what we really are, where we've really been. But basically, we're conscious beings, and that's where it's leading us. I mean, even the internet, everything's instant now. You have instant communication. We're getting used to having those powers, and then we come into ourselves as conscious beings, as spirit beings. We'll be able to travel through our collective omnipresence, and that's what step 3 is. It's learning to be anywhere, do anything.
So basically, you're talking about travel through thought?
If you want to call our collective essence thought, yeah. I mean, it seems like thought sometimes.
Have you?
Go ahead.
No. Finish your thought, because I'm interested in what you were saying.
Yeah, I kind of see as in the cycle, the energy goes through the cycle. You've got the energetic part of ourself, and you've got the awareness part of ourself. And just like in the East they always say, well, consciousness is just awareness, and in the West we say no, consciousness is doing something. So we're coming kind of together on those, and I see the energy evolves into beings, and the awareness it kind of evolves into mind. So like, there's even some scientists now that have a theory that actually memory, the origin of memory, is kind of like a feedback loop. Even when we had no intelligence and we were just like maybe atomic particles or whatever, every emotion has kind of a feedback loop to it.
Oh, okay. And why is this important to us today?
What part of it? I'll talk myself back.
Well,
what? Oh, why is this the whole thing I'm bringing forth? Why is it important?
yes.
Because our next evolutionary step is to learn to function and live as a conscious being in or out of these bodies. In other words, we've had estimated 130,000 years as Homo sapiens, and it's time for us to like kind of leave the nest and fly.
But we have been evolving all this time. So how do you
define evolution?
So how do I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate what you're saying, but how do you prove your theory?
Well, I prove my theory by doing it, and teaching other people to do it. But we've been evolving in the sense of we've been developing intelligence so we can get smart enough to realize the truth, where we are, who we are, and what's really happening here. After that's a realization, then it's time to act on it and move into another form besides, like, when you do the exercises in my book, you don't actually go off into some kind of ascension or anything. You're still in your body. It's just you're not stuck just to your body. You can go in and out of the 3 dimensions. You can shift event streams. You can shift parallel universes.
Okay, so
it's a more complex experience of life. It's like eventually the internet's going to get boring, and cell phones are going to get boring. People, you can see from the internet age, people want a more complex, faster experience. Well, this is it.
You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by, Lou. Exonation Lou Majors is our guest this hour. We're talking to him about his new ebook, which is called Step 3, Our Multidimensional Transformation, which is available on Amazon.com. If you'd like to give us a call, 1-800-610-7035. Our email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And our main website is www.xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back with Lou Majors on the other side of this news break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone radio show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Lou Majors is our special guest this hour. We're talking to Lou about his newly released ebook entitled Step 3, Our Multidimensional Transformation, which is available on Amazon.com. Lou, tell me about the method that you teach in your book. How do people who have never had a near out-of-body experience learn to release themselves?
Okay, well, there's one specific chapter on, I give 6 exercises which can be done anywhere, anytime to begin. And in the past, there have been people like Robert Monroe, real pioneers of consciousness, that taught about leaving your body. And there's been Eckankar, there's different things like that, which kind of created a framework of the astral and all that stuff. What I teach people is basically your awareness is who you are, and I teach them how to move that. And at first, it seems more like a feeling, like expanding your presence. So right now, you feel like you're in that body. You learn to expand and feel yourself as the whole room, and then come back to your body, that sort of thing. And at first, it's kind of a feeling of your presence, moving, changing, expanding, and then it develops into where you get the audio and visual parts where you're actually changing your perspective, and you can experience that, full on.
What can a person do in this altered state?
Well, really, you've got just about anything. I mean, you've got in the cycle, in the eternal cycle, in the expression of existence, there's kind of the instinctive part, the 3D part where there's expansion, and that's kind of like the timepiece for existence, So you can basically you can shift event streams to pick an event stream that's more what you want to have. You can you can what else? And then multidimensionally, you can get outside of 3D, where really anything is possible. It's kind of like a dream state, except that there are other beings there, and you can co-create with them, play games with them, create universes. But that's really like high-level stuff. Like a lot of people, when they do these drugs like DMT and stuff, they just spontaneously get in these realms, and they're like babies going around, getting bumped around with no control, they can't navigate, and they're just, all over the place. Well, when you learn to move your perspective, you have more control, you can navigate, you learn how to get to different places by feeling or by thought, and that's the process.
But my question still is, why? Why would I want to do this? How can it help me in my present-day life? What can I learn from this? What can I gain from this?
Okay, well, let's talk about the 3 steps then. The first step, once you understand existence is a one unified field, one spirit, the first step, you realize everything happens in the now, and there's been plenty of teachings on this, like the power of now and be here now. You learn to be present. That's step 1, as you learn to be present, because that's where reality is. Step 2 is when you learn to adjust your energy to affect your personal experience. And, there's lots of things on that, too. Just like when I did the Napoleon Hill, my subconscious, I was trying to affect my personal experience, by changing what I expected. And there was a big thing on the secret and the law of attraction, but basically what I believe, like science believes in their multi-worlds theory and what I've experienced, is there's an infinite amount of event streams and an infinite amount of universes. And when you change your resonance, you're really shifting to another branch, another momentum and outcome of what you want.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
step 2, learning to.
All right, but once again, we're changing streams, we're changing events, but still, this is an out-of-body experience. You have to come back to this reality, so nothing has really changed.
No. When you shift, okay. Let's take it to a different. Let me explain it a different way.
Okay.
You know in the Bible how it says there's going to be a new time. Everything's going to become new. There's no more pain, no more suffering, no more death. It talks about that.
Yeah.
Basically, when we as beings, when we come into this 3D world, the default stream is chaos and random stuff. So, like, we're in the stream where we're trying to survive, and there's all this random stuff. So, like, when you become awake and aware, the first thing you do is you eliminate those things by moving to a new stream where there's no pain, there's no suffering, and even there's no death.
All right, so you move to a new stream, but what about the reality that you started in this three-dimensional field? What do? Just vanish?
I don't know. I don't know if when I change streams, maybe you die in that stream. Maybe it goes on. I don't know because I don't go back. I mean, sometimes I might teeter back and forth from my old programming, but basically, I don't know what happens when you. I guess everything happens when you leave the other stream, just like everything happens when you're in a stream. I mean, when you're looking at different event streams.
Okay.
But here's the advantage to doing this. Okay, you asked me about that. The advantage to doing this is you become the manager of your own event horizon, and you eliminate the crap and the garbage that you've had to experience when you thought you were just a regular animal in a chaotic system. You there?
Yeah, I'm having a heck of a hard time understanding why you'd want to do this.
Well, okay, you're basically creating your version of heaven on Earth.
But is it a psychosomatic creation? It can't be real because you've gone to these different dimensions, and yet you're talking to me over the telephone, and our voices are going around the world. So how can you have gone to another dimension or another stream and come back? It makes no sense.
No. Okay. The event streams run along the 3D line. The multidimensional area is outside that flow.
All right,
it's simultaneous. It's kind of like you have the part of yourself, what we used to consider your physical reality in your body, and then at night you let your body down and you enter another dimension. It's a different thing.
So do you have to take drugs to enjoy this?
Not at all.
No, eh?
In fact, one of my most popular, I had a blog for 7 years, which basically became the book. And one of the most popular topics on there from the stats was how to get high without drugs. I taught people how to reach altered states without chemicals. Because chemicals will do it, but basically you're out of control, and it's just, like I said before, you're like a little baby blobbing around everywhere.
So basically all you're talking about is creating a lucid dream.
No.
Well, what's the difference?
The difference is, a lucid dream never enters a 3 dimensions. And in a lucid dream, there aren't other beings there, and there's not that you can talk to and learn from that are different than you. That's basically a lucid dream. You're in your own subconscious as a human.
But how do you know? How do you know for a fact? All right? I don't want a theory. I don't want a hypothesis. How do you know for a fact that you actually go to a different realm, a different stream? Do you bring back evidence to substantiate your claims?
Yeah, well, I've been doing this. I discovered the third step, which is the ability to explore our omnipresence, and I've been doing it for 2.5 years, and I'm finally getting to the point. Yeah, one way to prove it is when you go there, you see things that you never see in any of your experiences. You talk to beings you don't know in any of your experiences, and they can give you information that you've never heard anywhere else.
But what
And
use?
in other words,
But what use is this information to you?
Well, it's just like the information I got to begin with of this final stage where we're leaving our bodies, learning to come and go. That's that kind of information. Or
But-
it can be something else. It can be something we haven't even thought of.
But we've heard this before. You know what you're talking about, as I understand it, is when you die, your spirit goes to heaven.
Nope.
So what is so
We've
new
got
about what you're doing here? You've got me bamboozled.
You can, okay, if you adjust your energy, you can shift to an event stream from where you are right now in your studio, where there's no death. And it may appear as somebody develops some kind of pill that can send your DNA back to its original prime adult stage. And I mean, there's a jellyfish right now on this planet that every time it starts to enter old age, it reverses back and becomes young again. Have you heard of that?
No.
I wish I had the name in front of me. It's Latin. But, I mean, there's jellyfish right now in our reality that have learned to do that. But it's I mean, that's a whole different event stream than the one we're used to where you get old, age, and die. But it's a three-dimensional thing. Like I've noticed when I shift event streams, the first indication is information in that event stream changes right away. Like the things I'm seeing and hearing, information is like one of the most immediate things to change.
So how have you used this technique to help you in this reality?
Well, like step 2, the part about adjusting your energy, I used it to create an art show in Paris. I've used it to create wealth for myself at different times. I've used it to, at one point, I was on the coast when a hurricane, a Category 5 hurricane was coming. I used it to dissipate that. I mean, I know a lot of this stuff sounds wild, but I've actually had these experiences where I've used that. As far as the step 3, where I'm learning to adjust, to control my event streams and leave my body and go into multidimensional areas, I'm still learning a lot. I mean, some of it usually it's just so wild and so overwhelming that I have to come back here and rest for a while. But
Wait a sec. Why would you have to come back here?
Because on the third dimension, things move slower.
But if the
multidimensional
ultimate
area,
goal,
there's no-
if the ultimate goal is to get to another stream and exist in another stream and share all this information and learn so much, why wouldn't you just stay there?
No, the ultimate goal is create and experience a life-affirming experience for yourself in every dimension. I mean, because existence itself, I mean, science thinks there's at least 11 dimensions. I believe there's infinite dimensions. So you can never escape all of them.
But this is a theory. No one can prove it.
Well, that's the point. In my book, if you do the exercises, you can prove it to yourself. You can experience. That's my proof, is that it works. It's like a how-to manual. I mean, I could say whatever I want. I could be the world's biggest liar. But if I tell you, Rob, you do this and this and try this, and you see that it works, that's always been my measure of truth. Is like when I explored all these different things, the ones that worked for me were real, and that's what, for me, that was what truth was, something that's real to me in my reality.
I can understand.
people-
I can understand that maybe there is a spiritual aspect to all of this. But when you tell me you teach people how to go from one stream to the other, that they can, the possibilities are endless. And then you say you come back to this reality because it's slower and you need to rest. Makes no sense.
Maybe the word reality is muddying the water, because in the past, as humans, we always thought there's two realities: physical reality and the spiritual realm. And now, because of science, we're learning there's dimensions and there's parallel universes, and it's like it's all one unified field.
But a parallel universe is just a theory, because you cannot prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is a parallel universe.
Well, I mean,
Maybe in your mind you can. Maybe you can create it in your mind. But the
latest pictures from the Hubble telescope. You have to look up the physicist's name. I apologize, I don't have it on the tip of my tongue. But there's a woman scientist in North Carolina. It's been on the internet. They've discovered all the way back to the original radiation charts of the Big Bang.
Yeah.
There's cold spots on that. In other words, they interpret that as those are other universes attached to it. That's just one physical proof.
No. That's not a proof. That's their interpretation. That's their interpretation of the data.
Yeah, exactly. They're calling it that. But to me, okay, we'll get back to the same thing. If I say, Rob, put your right index finger in your ear, close your nose with your other hand, and count back from 10, and you experience it, then who needs to have some kind of mathematical proof to back it up?
Well, it sounds like a bunch of emptiness to me, because what the hell's the sense of doing it if you can't get anything out of it except self-satisfaction? I'm having an entire problem with this entire concept.
Okay, well, you're familiar with gamers, right, on the internet?
Yeah, they're a bunch of losers in my book.
Well,
you know, these you and I have to take our final break. Well, that's their problem, not mine. It's my show, not theirs.
There's a lot more of them than you.
We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone talking about, I don't even know what the hell we're talking about. I really don't.
Step 3.
Lost in Space. This is the Lost in Space segment. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Maybe. Don't. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.matstein.com. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Wow. I went into all these different universes and I decided to come back. Yeah. You know, you're talking about gamers on the internet. I think that anybody who sits down and plays a virtual reality game needs to get their head examined, get their head out of their butt, and get to the real world where they can actually do something with their life instead of escaping on the internet. The internet is the biggest cesspool that man has ever created. It is the...
Okay, let's move away from that then.
Okay.
Do you believe in Romans 8? I mean, you believe in the Bible?
It's a nice book.
I mean, okay, that's not important to you. Well, basically, I mean, okay, let me ask you a question. Do you ever think there'll be a time in your life, Rob, where you'll reach a state of happiness and total life-affirming experience in your reality, like go to heaven or whatever? How have you ever?
I'm already there.
Well, then you're there.
Yeah, you see, I'm already there.
Well, then you're in your perfect event stream. You don't need any of this stuff. But there's a lot of people that want to be more complex.
They don't want to be complex. They just can't cope with reality. They're looking for an easy out. They're ostriches. Yeah. They have their heads in the sand.
Maybe they don't want to experience the violence.
They don't want to experience life.
Mm-hmm.
They're lazy. They are really lazy. I mean, they're weak.
Every person is different.
They're weak. They can't take the world for the way it really is.
Well, then why don't we go back to the cave days when we live in caves and with fire and just, I mean, we got more complex than that. We developed intelligence. Why did we do it? If it didn't matter. It's
called evolution. It's called progress.
Exactly. And that's what this is. It's evolution.
No, it's not.
We don't stop. We don't stop at the human race. That's not the end all to everything.
Sounds like snake oil. You know, it doesn't sound like this is a great moment in metaphysical worlds, for God's sake. It sounds like an excuse for running away from reality. You know, geez.
Oh, finding one that's free of the pain and suffering and the negative self-destructive elements in life. What's wrong with that? There's
nothing wrong, but it's called psychiatric care. Help. That's what it's called, because if I cannot understand people who spend their lives on a computer playing in virtual worlds, making virtual decisions, getting married to virtual people. Oh, come on. They just can't face the real life.
I'm not saying that's the end all. I'm just saying that's an indication that people want a more complex, faster experience.
No, that's an indication. That's an indication that there are people out there who can't cope with reality, and they just enter into.
How many people have a cell phone right now, a smartphone? How many people? I mean, the latest information from Ball State University says that the average American, I know you're in Canada, but the average American spends 7 to 8 hours a day in virtual reality, looking at monitors, whether they're cell phones. So, like, that's an actual trend that's happening, and it's an average. It's not like a couple of weirdos that living in their mom's basement. This is the whole society is living like this. So it's got to be an indication of something.
Yeah, it's an indication on how pathetic society really is when you can't talk to people. You have to text them. You can't communicate. And God forbid, the day the cell phones go down because of a shift in the electromagnetic field, we're going to have a bunch of morons to take care of.
Well, I'm probably technically I'm probably in your age group. I'm 64, so I've seen the whole thing unwind too. And
yeah.
I just don't see it as a negative thing. I just see it as evolution. Evolution's always about becoming more mobile.
All right, listen, I hate to do this, but we've run out of time for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining us. You make no sense at all. My God, 64, I think he spent too much time with psychedelic drugs and other psychotropic substances. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break unless I decide to go to another stream. This is the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.